Hi, welcome to the first episode of Behind the Mix with the.amiimopps. Today I'm going to take you through a behind the scenes look at our most recent single, Ashes of Neptune, coming up. Okay, so this is the session. I was going to start off by showing everyone the demo. Funny part about the demo is it only has 3 tracks. So as you can see, just MIDI piano, MIDI drums, and some singing that is okay.
Your answers are questions, they're always the same. Tell me you're tired of playing this game. Why am I here? Why have I stayed? Is insanity expecting your change?
Okay, you get the point of that. So the way I mix songs for this album, I've been experimenting with, they call it top-down mastering. So instead of, mixing all of these tracks first off, you start with the master bus over here, stereo out, which I have 3 plugins that I use. The first one's this tape machine, give it more of a vintage sound, it mellows some of the transients out. And then, like most people, I have the plug-in version of the SSL bus compressor, which is pretty cool because it keeps the bass in check and the bottom end in check. That way, it's not going all over the place and spiking everything. And then last, I have this plugin called Ozone 8. To start off, I just do a brick wall EQ here. It cuts out about 30 hertz or so, because you don't really need that in metal. This exciter adds other harmonics, saturation to the sound, makes it a little more exciting, hence the name. It's actually just distortion, which a lot of people associate distortion with guitar, but use distortion in a lot of places because it makes things pop out of the mix a little more. And in this case, it just makes the overall mix, I guess, louder, perceived loudness. And then last on this chain is the maximizer, which cuts off everything at about 2 decibels. I put it at 2 decibels because that's what Spotify recommended. I guess we'll start at the beginning. So for this song, there's a piano intro. Funny thing about this piano part is there are 2 piano parts. So there's this bass part. Let me play that real quick. And then there's this part. Okay, so then obviously when you put them together, you'll hear it in the final mix. So let's go to the drums. That's actually the first thing I usually mix, because the drums are a bunch of different elements and you want to try to make it one instrument. So usually I solo it like this. Let's listen to it separate. Hold on. Yeah, so all the drums are real. We don't use samples or anything like that because it's not part of my philosophy with drumming. I'd rather just have the real drums. This is not one take. This is a bunch of different takes comped into one part because I'm not a drummer. As far as processing goes, there's really not a lot of processing that goes on with plugins. Got a couple SSL EQs. Gives it a little more color than just a regular EQ. Pretty good plugin. Let's see. This is a good plugin too. It's Crystal Allergy Drums. Gives you some more options. Different colors. Makes it a little easier to mix from. I don't like to add a lot of plugins to all this stuff because it'll bog down the mix and take away from what actually is happening. When you're playing drums, and especially if you're playing rock or something like that, you don't want a lot of cymbals, otherwise it'll affect the kick and the snare a lot. So I tried my best to not play the ride cymbal as heavy. So all of these tracks are being sent over here to this drum bus. And on the drum bus, there's another SSL compressor just to give it a little more color and to keep all of the hits in check so they don't clip too bad. That's the drums. Probably get more in depth with that at another point. But that's just a little overview of it. Not a whole lot going on as far as plugins. Let's talk about guitar. So guitar, not a whole lot going on. I added one EQ to one of the guitars because I felt like it. And then these guitar parts I didn't really add anything to because I don't have to. It sounded fine to me. Obviously, the guitar part is recorded really loud. Solo it real quick. Might solo it with the drums too in a minute. Yeah, so that's the guitar part. Let's talk about the bass real quick. So I figured it'd be easier to show you how the bass is routed rather than explaining it, so here it is. Okay, so for the bass, this black cord right here is the input. So if we look at the bass signal goes into this direct box where the input is, and that input goes to this output, which then plugs straight into the amp. And then the amp is picked up by this microphone, which then goes into the computer. And then the input also goes out to this output, XLR output, same kind of cable as the mic, and that goes into the computer, so you have two signals of the bass. Pretty simple. As far as the EQ and the settings of the amp, I didn't know what the overdrive thing did on this amp until maybe a year ago. It just adds distortion to the bass sound, so it pops out of the mix more. And you don't have to do it in post-production, so you can just do it right on, straight into the computer. Then the shaping EQ button, I just add a little bit more of the bottom end because the graph shows a bump in the bottom end, if you think of an EQ graph. And then some of the settings, left the mids where they were, increased the treble and the bass a little bit, just for some clarity. So, and then as far as plugins for that, really didn't do a whole lot because I got a lot of it off the amp. I just added this Crystal Allergy bass onto it to give it a little more grit. The whole thing about this song is it's kind of gritty, not super bright, what I noticed, so just turned out that way. And then a little bit of widening. Let's solo the bass real quick. Yeah, the widening definitely gives it a little more width in the mix, which is kind of what I want in this song. So Emily sang it one time through, and a harmony part down here, and then I duplicated this part in the two different parts, that way to add a little more reinforcement to her voice. And on the two extra parts, I added this voice doubler. And then check out this plugin right here. This is a de-esser, so it gets rid of a lot of the harsh consonant sounds. Let's listen to this bus right here. Yeah, so that part has a lot of reverb on it, obviously. And yes, I am singing in this song. I'll save you the headache from that, but it's great, I guess. Let's go to these guitar fill parts from the song. Yeah, so that's that without plugins. And then let me show you Arden's part at the very end. I think she might have hit a whistle tone there. Not exactly sure what happened there, but it sounds fine. So, to me it does at least. So that's pretty much it for that song. This last part, I kind of messed up on the drum part, but I made it work because you got to be able to make it work, because that's how it goes. So, yeah, if I hadn't said it earlier, M played all of these piano parts. Then for this last one, I played it because I knew where the timing was. Because my mistake, I gotta play it. So. Yeah, and then that last note, I just felt like adding that. Hey, that's all for the video. If you liked what you've seen, make sure to subscribe to the channel and give the video a like. Also, if you have any questions, feel free to leave it in the comments section and we'll reply to it. If you have anything you want mixed or anything of that nature, any parts recorded, let us know in the email in the description. Thanks.